The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts. Welcome to episode 281 of the Broadcasters Podcast. And you know, out of the last 5 weeks of this program, I've normally discussed either radio or the Hollywood labor union strikes. And that's what I've been doing the last few weeks. So I gave you a week off of radio ranting because I can't help myself. And we're going to get back into it again. I gave you 1 week respite with strike talking, and now we're back to radio because RadioDays North America is coming up. We're going to bring that up right now, and we're going to talk about a couple of things that are being brought up as topics leading up to the event, which I'm not going to. I never get to go to these radio conventions. I never get offered to go. It costs too much for me to go. I'm not going to take my time to go over there and go talk to the radio folks. I'd love to give them a platform here, honestly. If any of those out there want to be a part of it, I'd love for all of you to go ahead and be able to talk to me if you wouldn't mind. And let's see if we can work out with each other and actually get some real talk. Okay. Now, the event is ongoing as we speak for the next weekend, and it's going on in Toronto. It'd be nice to go. Listen, I'd love to go to NAB and all these other places to go. I wouldn't mind. But I know if I go to these events, I'm a disruptor myself. I'm independent. I'm not part of a corporation. I'm not part of a company that's going to be of any interest to any of these companies over there. And everybody's going to have their own thought processes of how things are done. Now, when I worked over at my friend's company, which was JC Radio Group, and he ran, 4 stations? He actually had 3 stations under his group. 3 AM stations with FM translators. One that was all Creole programming. The other one was gospel, Southern gospel programming. And the other one was Spanish tropical. And I remember when James had brought on somebody to help with sales, more on the sales end, not so much from a programming end, but the lady they had brought on board said that she was very familiar with sales and programming. And James had said, talk to her. Help her out in the process. Work with her. And let's just say anything I told her was hitting a brick wall. That's the salesperson she brought on board and herself. She came from a different market. Might have had some work where she was able to make a radio station function, but it was an FM station and it was a small wattage station, a teapot. And when I look at what they were doing, I'm like, okay. Targeting an older format, whatever works in Fort Myers, Florida will work in Port St. Lucie. Okay. Not a very traditional Spanish market. But my thing was, why not go for a younger audience that's in this market and go 2554? Meanwhile, the salesperson I did have to deal with always kept going for a higher age demographic. And same thing goes for anyone that was in this sales group or this group that was coming on board, because she was acting as she was a consultant. She was never really a consultant before, but she says she was. And I saw some of her work. I saw the press kits, very basic, like a lot of small AM stations will run. She didn't last long. And before I knew it, within a month, she was gone. Didn't sell a thing. I guess they realized what they were trying to do wasn't going to work. Because also the lady was in Fort Myers. She wasn't going to go and drive over here on a regular basis. She thought she'd just go and call businesses to get them on board instead of actually hitting the pavement and going out into the field. Because her other salesperson was in Pembroke Pines. They're pretty far away from Port St. Lucie. And they're not going to go out there 1 day or 2 days a week to go and try to pound the pavement and try to get some sales in. So it wasn't going to work. Meanwhile, the guy I was working with in sales, he lives in Port St. Lucie, and he was going after businesses, and that was fine. So he could do that. But this point of delusion that continues to go across radio from this end and from many radio people I met in the past. Now, the one thing I didn't get to do too much of when I was at Iheart was really rub shoulders with the brass, with the real corporate underlings that were answering to the regional directors, and then those answering to the likes of Bob Pittman and Rich Bressler. No. See, music radio, we've talked about in the last 5 weeks here, they want to continue to go after an older format, older audience. What worked in the 90s, let's just try to do it here. In terms of the music content, let's just take what music was playing in the 90s that we knew how to research. We know how to go ahead and put out and test what was in the 2000s up until Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and all these others came into play. Before streaming came into play, about a decade ago. Well, now, radio has no answer. They'd rather just play the music from before. Radio doesn't want to offer anything to the artists now. We're going to talk about all that here on the program. Because there's several stories that came out that really made the point clear as to where radio is and why radio is delusional at this point, and they're going wrong in this age of digital. They're not doing anything to properly find their role in this age of the digital disruption. Okay, the streamers and benefit for the listeners, sure, we got all the music that's out there, but there's no taste making. And I've said this on a broken record. Taste making. There is no new music discovery where somebody's actually giving you the idea, oh, we should discover a new record. Something that radio over and over and over has done in the past. Sometimes they would get a song, it would get played, and they would showcase a song that would get played over and over again. We didn't have to wait for it to be rotated, and we didn't have to play the one song just to go ahead and add it on repeat on our streamer, or on our player. You know? I never do that on Spotify, where I take a song and I just hit it on a loop. Not me. Maybe I'll go ahead and take the time to go ahead and add it into the queue again. But no. That's where radio was actually good about those things. They would actually play the songs I wanted to hear, and then new songs, they would go ahead and play them because they got you familiar with them, because they were trying to promote the fact the song was new, it was good, they were trying to help the artist out, trying to help the record label out, actually help make some money. And the promotion and all the things that go on along with it, maybe the radio stations would get paid, maybe the program directors would get paid, maybe radio would get some of these artists to go ahead and perform at their concerts or their events, or perform in studio, or do interviews, or something in return for their work. It's not hard for radio to go ahead and make money. They could make money, but, you know, they don't want to spend on resources. They don't want to spend on talent, like actual talent. Not just bringing somebody on board that might look good on television or look good on social media. Like somebody that actually has the wherewithal, understanding of music, understanding of hosting a program, and entertaining an audience. You actually have to have entertainers on your radio stations. Oh, but you can't do that. Or people that are musicians or music lovers. Something. But as long as the corporate companies are going to continue to do what they're going to do, and there is no creativity allowed, there's no new music discovery allowed, there's no opportunities for the record labels to work with. Like, why the radio stations and the radio companies do not want to work aligned publicly with the record labels that have a lot of money. Why don't they want to do that? Why do they not want to work with radio? Because, I mean, if you listen to radio stations from before, they used to have it a thing where the music stores would buy ads to promote records because the record labels would buy and help to get their music pushed by the record stores to get them on the radio stations, get them played, get them sold. It would actually help towards streaming and getting more revenue towards these record labels, but nobody wants to do that. Or how about these artists going in concert to radio stations under the corporate umbrella? Nobody wants to do that. Like, you're not making money off the record labels. You want to make money off the companies, off these corporations, which, by the way, they don't have that much more money to advertise with. Or you're going to take political ads that no one wants to listen to, no one really cares about, and just hear them over and over. Or hear really bad infomercial type ads that are just like affiliate marketing ads, you know, promo codes and discounts if you mention this. and making local ad rates reasonable for people to go ahead and buy, and actually having people reason to listen to radio so they can actually have advertising on there. You have made the radio landscape, corporate radio, so unbearable. You don't work good on fixing your signals to make your music sound good on the air on an FM or AM dial. You're not caring about HT radio. Streaming, you're not really caring about how it sounds on there either. The patching up of all these different ad revenue pipelines so you can listen in on streaming sounds horrible. Or on a smart speaker, it sounds horrible. The amount of ads you have to go and play. And then the music that you're playing as well. When these corporate radio stations now do not know what music to play anymore and don't know what ads to play anymore, you don't know how to program. You have people that have long lost the art of how to program a radio station. Many of them. And programming talent that could work well with the format. Or working with a format that people want to hear. But who's doing that? I'm sorry, I just don't believe the whole thing that radio has all these different listeners out there. They're still listening, once a week or twice a week or every day or whatever they always say. 97% of Americans. No, it's not like anymore. Or 13% streaming. I believe it's much more than that. I'm sorry, how often do you hear radio stations being played in businesses? Does that happen anymore? Of course not. Hey, my doctor's office, they're playing Sirius XM. The Blend. If I go to my dentist's office, it's Sirius XM, The Blend. All right. How about the stores like in the mall? How about in, pick a place? Remember when radio used to be played in different places? They don't do that anymore. People can stream. Or they don't play music at all because they know other people are just listening in on their headphones wherever they are, like myself. But I need this platform to be able to rant. I can't talk to my friend Lou Pate about this every single day. Hey, Lou. I can't do it every day. I don't have enough people to go and talk about this on a regular basis. So I have to be on this show. This is my platform. I get to rant. And I get to say what's all on my mind about this because I continue to see this. And this is from someone that wants radio to succeed. Listen, I was in 2019. I did it for nothing. For a year, I programmed a radio station with the time that I had, and I made time. I went and visited Port St. Lucie. I worked with a sales team. I worked with the programming. I worked with the talent. I worked with them. We had something going, and I was doing it, so I wanted to make money. I wanted to be successful. Take a radio station that was not doing well and build it into something that was actually good. And you know what I did? I got that to a point where it became a value for a programmer. So I don't want to do sales, could do programming. Took the station over, and then decided to go into a licensed marketing agreement with my friend and was paying a monthly fee to operate the station. And that doesn't happen without yours truly, King of Podcasts, doing what I did for a year. Getting that station back to where it needed to be. And at least I can say that's one radio station that actually got themselves in a better direction. Local talent. Local ads, local engagement, live and local. They were doing that. They still do it now. I'd love to see that continue to happen if it could. But where we are now. I mean, I can try to listen to radio now. And I kid you not, I can't even tell you when commercials run anymore and what times. I know that they usually run 25 and 50 minutes after the hour. Sometimes, and they kind of like, that's their normal format, but like really the commercials that they add, the promos that are unnecessary. The fact that you or your stations are not willing to go and cut down their inventory down from 22 minutes, 24 minutes they take of a time for programming to play music. And then all the things that they're doing to try to, act like the DJs actually really are mattering. They're doing things. And playing songs that have been played on the radio new for months up to years. When you have songs that are considered new that you've been playing that were at least 6 months out in the ether of streaming. And radio acts like, streaming doesn't even exist. That's the biggest problem I have. They don't realize, they don't know that TikTok exists. They don't care to think about that. They don't care about Instagram Reels. They don't care about YouTube Shorts. They don't care about the challenges. They don't care about what's trending, what's viral. Very few do. And the ones that want to try, my fellow program directors out there, my music directors out there, that are trying to do their best, they're getting shut down every day. And it's because of the people and the mindset of the radio industry itself. And listen, I can't keep going on these rants with trying to say that it's not that the radio talent is not there. There is radio talent still out there. Some that have been around for a long time. And some that are young that have given the chance would actually thrive. But they're not getting a chance to do that at all. So what do? We have to wait for things to happen to radio so that we get the openings available. That's all that can be done. I don't know what else you do. But some people get their jobs, get to work somewhere else again. We get to hear them again. It's great to hear them. People that have been around for a long time, they're not going to get their tenure. There's no tenure in radio. No such thing as that. I mean, damn it, NPR could be doing the right thing too. But they're not. I've said this since last year. What if there was a national format? Odyssey tried to do that. They're failing miserably right now. Failing. Okay, the station down here, Odyssey's CHR, Power 96. You know, a station I've heralded for years. No, that station opened up, was 1986. Y100 actually is going to be 50 years old coming up in August. Now, where are they now? It's all these that are going through just some things that are just, it's just a shame. And it really, really annoys me, bothers me, everything. So let's talk about Bob Pittman. He was interviewed on Burning Man Radio. And by the way, yes, his credentials speak for itself. He ran MTV, AOL, and Six Flags before helming Iheart Media as CEO. Taking this from New York Post. And Lydia Moynihan speaks with him. And he says he's one of the few executives who believes in remote work. So one of the first things he says, and Lydia, great question off the top. And this is the delusion I'm talking about. So Lydia's question, every car in the world can connect to Bluetooth. Now that people have Spotify, Apple Music, and podcasts, why do we still need radio? So, good confrontational question for Bob Pittman. This is how he answers. I'm not taking any words out of context. Quote, actually, radio is as strong as ever. All the new streaming music services replace products that came before, iTunes, CDs, and even cassettes. Radio and music collection services are quite different products. In fact, 80% of Americans agree with that statement. I listen to both FM radio and music collections, but at different times for different reasons. We're not competitive with the music services, we're synergistic. The consumer uses us both. Wrong. Absolutely not. That is the biggest lie. People are not listening to radio and streaming. It's one or the other. And more people are flocking to streaming. It's like cable. It's like network. People are cutting the cord. Well, people are turning off the radio. And he says, listen to both FM radio and music collections. See, even the way he explains that is antiquated. FM radio and music collections. And by the way, that's a survey question that he asked, of which a survey question was an antiquated question. Do you listen to both to FM radio and music collections? Music collections is not streaming. Ask that question again, Bob. Put the word streaming in there. Put the words Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music. Try that again. See if you get 80%. 80% of Americans. You're not. See, you rigged, the survey is rigged. The question is misaligned and misappropriated. And then this answer here, we're not competitive with the music services, we're synergistic. And that tells you everything that radio doesn't understand. Where radio gets it wrong. Bob Pittman, once again, the same man has said that podcasting is radio's birthright. Well, no, it's not. Podcasting is a different beast. Now, radio people can absolutely have podcasts on, but they all learn the same thing like everybody else. You can't just take a radio show and turn it into a podcast. It doesn't work. They all fail. They all fail. And then he goes on to say, quote, when people listen to their music collection, they're just trying to unplug from the world. No honored personalities, no information, no stories, no interviews, just music. When people listen to the radio, they're joining the world. What, the world of commercials? The world of promos? The world of how many times can we promote your Instagram or Facebook or Twitter? I mean, what joining what? Syndicated programming that you can hear anywhere else? Repetitive? It's delusional. All of it. And then he says, with us, they're looking for connection, companionship, and someone to hang out with. Yeah, well, you mean the people that are automated? The people that are robotic that have already left the studio hours ago and didn't do anything live? The people that you can't, have a connection with? The ones that you cannot connect to on social media and you can't call on the phone? Call the hotline? Call the station? What connection are you talking about, Bob? And that's our purpose, even though we may also be playing music on some of our radio stations. Some music, along with the ads you're playing, the tremendous amount of inventory of ads, of the same ads, of the ones that you have to make good for your syndicated programming that you run on the weekends, or of other programming that's out there, of which you don't make any money, not a dime of it. It's all bartered. Can everybody just take that question right there? I don't want to repeat it again, but that is a delusional statement the whole way through. This is an answer, Bob, that you could have given in 2005, 2006. In 2023, it doesn't hold anymore. Oh, when we first started having the internet and people could go ahead and download music on Napster or Apple iTunes, sure, that answer was valid then. Okay? Let me try it again. iTunes, and remember, let's get rid of physical units. We're talking about digital units. We're talking about before streaming, people could get digital downloads from iTunes. They go to Rhapsody, whatever. That answer you could have used then. But that's a 20-year-old answer. It doesn't work now. Not at all. So we're not competitive with the music services. Right. If it was like the record store, people are just buying records and listening to them at home. Well, they don't want to listen to the radio. Sure. And that's what you could have done with your iPod. But the question that Lydia asks is different. She says, connecting to Bluetooth, that people have Spotify, Apple Music, and podcasts. See, he dodges the question. He gave an answer that he's probably used for 20 years. This is his workaround. He doesn't have a better answer. He's not allowed to say a better answer. This is the best answer he has. It doesn't matter. Radio is going to go along its own path, completely delusional to everything else that's going on around them. That's taking away at their bottom line, taking away their audience, taking away the relevancy. This is why radio's wrong. It's people like Bob Pittman. Now, I'm sure behind the scenes, he's a smart man. I'm sure, if we're not putting a microphone in front of him and he's not being interviewed or he's not up on stage at a conference, I'm sure among his people, he probably has a better answer to that. He knows, listen, my company doesn't have any money. We're completely in debt. I was part of the bankruptcy proceedings. I'm just making more money off of this as CEO. I'm making money. I'm the only person making money better than the company is. Like, I'm making money thanks to the wonderful people in the private equity that thought I should still be CEO. Okay? That's why he's there. That's why he gets the big bucks. Tens of millions of dollars to answer like that. To represent radio in that way. because he's a representative of radio. She doubles down. He asks, you're also competing with big guns like Apple and Spotify and their massive cash war chests. Would you eventually plan to shut down the radio stations and towers, use the spectrum for other purposes? So, yeah, she's saying, well, maybe radio just doesn't even run it. Radio just doesn't even care. Okay? Apple and Spotify are spending money on content. And that the Iheart radio division, maybe you just let it go. Lydia actually makes a point. Now, I don't think use the spectrum for other purposes. No, I don't think that. I don't think shutting down the radio stations or towers. I'm saying sell it off. Okay? Why doesn't iHeartMedia sell the radio stations off? That's a better question, Lydia. Now, Bob has his answer here. And here's what he says. And by the way, what does that have to do with radio? Nothing. Let me make this point clear. Okay? To the contrary, the strength and foundation of our company is our broadcast radio stations. 90% of listeners listen to iHeart broadcast radio stations every month. This blanket number that comes out, and I'm telling you, if I went to other people in the cars, I'll tell you I'm not going to get that 90% answer. No. Absolutely not. 90%. Damn. No. No, absolutely not. Let's move along. To put that into context, the biggest TV network. See, he's also using TV network. See, we can't even talk in digital terms. I'm talking about Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu or taking a media company that has digital assets. No, we can't do that, Bob. So the biggest TV network reaches less than 40% of Americans. Big streaming music services. See, oh, look, he actually said big streaming music services. He doesn't want to say them by name. Well, reach less than 30%. That's whatever survey or whatever company, Nielsen's Listen of Ear survey says, whatever. And they're, placating for radio anyway. Or NAB lobbying for radio as well. Whatever. And we use that massive and unique reach of our broadcast radio to build complementary products like the iHeart Radio digital service. And major events like the iHeart Radio Music Festival, the iHeart Radio Music Awards, the iHeart Radio Jingle Ball Tour. That's why we're the number one podcast publisher by a lot. I mean, he's a shuck and jive, man. He is a huckster. He can go along and just say all these things right here and quite a pitch. He's a salesman at heart. I can't blame him for that. It all starts with using the trusted voices on our broadcast radio stations. Again, the automated ones. The ones that you can actually hear maybe between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., right? And maybe they are not in the market. No, they might be somewhere else. They might be actually the same voice in 10 different markets or more. Yeah, trusted voices. The very few that actually get the chance to talk in between the ads. All right? And with our unparalleled reach, we have quite an advantage over the other audio players, regardless of their cash war chests. See, he's just snubbing Apple and Spotify. Apple and Spotify, listen to that. Listen to that. Now, Apple Beats One has not done the competition. They've not done good by what they've done. Hey, you know what, Zane Lowe, you're nice. Okay, thank you. But the rest of their programming, no. Why Apple Music One is not what BBC Radio is, all right? They're trying to do something of a BBC Radio format, but BBC Radio just does it better. And other national radio networks just do a better job. Now, she asks about live events going on in 5 years and employees returning to the office. And he says this. You've said you'll never make employees return to the office. How do you manage employees while working remotely? He says, our business is all a series of interconnected teams. We see the office as an important productivity tool for those teams. You know why? Because they don't want to go ahead and have the offices anymore. They'll have them for the facilities for the radio stations themselves, but they don't want to have the extra space. So they can go ahead and unload it. Sure, why not? Lease it to somebody else? Now, there are other times when the office is a productivity tool, ideation tool, training tool is critical. Those times people should be in the office. I'm not sure there's a set number of days or set days or even set weeks that need to be people in the office. We're letting teams make those decisions based on their challenges and expecting all the folks at Iheart to focus and achieve on our goals. By the way, they don't have the money to force people to stay in the office. They're getting paid so little. And by the way, a normal thing at Iheart Radio, they don't get salaries that get a bump in pay. In that corporate sense, when you get your salary, you stay at that salary for as long as they want. Unless you're contracted. Unless you're talent, you got an agent still that will help you get an increase in your deal. Or at least make sure you're doing less work if you're going to have to get paid the same amount of money. Okay? So, Bob has this thought process for himself, and he makes this point. Now, by the way, the biggest threat he thinks, here's a question. With respect to your business, what keeps you up at night? What do you think is the biggest threat? And Bob answers, what keeps me out at night is what I don't know. What is the unexpected that's lurking out there? What is this, Coast to Coast AM? Who was the Art Bell? Are there early warning signs that I'm staring at but don't see? We can plan for the expected. It is the unexpected that requires enormous nimbleness and a widely open mind to see and solve for. That's gobbledygook. What kind of a flim-flam answer is that? There is the expected that should be the biggest threat. Streaming. Streaming is your biggest threat. You don't think it's your competition. If you don't think streaming, Spotify, Pandora, if you don't think podcasting is a threat, you're not in the right business. I mean, you're a media guy, so go work at another media company. But don't work in radio. You don't get it. And by the way, don't even touch the radio division. Like if Bob Hibbs wants to go and work around, then take away the radio division. Like iHeartMedia, you know what? Downsize your company. Let the radio stations go. You want to keep your music awards, keep your jingle ball, keep all those entities, go right ahead. Keep your podcasting, then do that. But let the radio stations go. Unload them. Hey, you might be able to go and pay your debts. Okay? You know why the radio stations are being kept? Because they're collateral. The facilities, the intellectual properties, the value, the worth, the valuation of those companies, those stations, it's collateral to their enormous debt. The towers, the buildings, all of it. And while the FCC has never touched in and said, you know what? Or somebody, these radio stations should not be owned by iHeartRadio. They should be unloaded. Now, I'm not telling them what they get to do. Listen, they get away with it. But the bankruptcy court could have done something where they could said, you know what? You can't hold on to this much debt. You want to restructure, but you know what? It's just like Regal Cinemas. They had to unload theaters. They had to let go of locations to restructure, to get their books in order. Why doesn't iHeartRadio get that same treatment? Why does it all these other companies have to go through bankruptcy, unload collateral? Oh, they put it into a trust, whatever. But what I'm saying is, okay, yeah, the smaller market, the little small fry stations, they let go. What about the big boys? Okay? They're not billing that much. Not enough. These quarterly earning reports where you're getting 1 to 2% revenue against like the valuation of what, like getting so many millions of dollars that you think you get every year. I mean, honestly, if iHeartMedia was smart, they should just go ahead and let all those stations go. Or actually, let a lot of them go and then program a national format and get rid of all this extra clutter and run everything like a Sirius XM. Like, seriously. Just do it like that. And you can have national stations. And then you can still keep your jingle balls, keep everything else that you're doing, and keep it that. Honestly, Bob, I'm giving you a good idea. Why don't you just unload the radio stations? Why not? It would be smart to do. You're using it as collateral, and the truth is, I think maybe if you have the podcast network, you have all your other events, those are probably moneymakers. The app itself, they're probably moneymakers. So why keep the radio stations? Why keep them around? Let them go. I mean, they're not going to get the highest value for them right now, but you know what? If they were still under bankruptcy and the bankruptcy court said, you know what, Chapter 11, hey, you need to let some more stations go, do it. They should not be allowed to be able to have the amount of debt they have and not serve. And by the way, the FCC should jump in because they should be serving the public interest. The FCC should be intervening and saying, listen, somebody should go ahead and file complaints to them and say, listen, iHeartMedia, look what they're doing. And show example after example after example of how many times they do not serve the public with local news and information, with breaking news, with weather reports, and all the things that are serving the general public. NPR's around. Okay. And when iHeartMedia does not do the justice of serving the live and local listeners listening to the station with information that's pertinent to their area, when they're not going to get it on their local TV station, they're going to get it for their local newspapers because they're also limited in staff. If radio could do the same thing, it'd be a different story. As they said, AM radio should be around because, what happens if we have a hurricane or a tornado or some other natural disaster? And infrastructure for media companies, TV stations, whatever, they drop. Radio is going to still be there. But they don't think that, do they? Well, nobody even says anything about that. Bob, you get me all upset and worked up about this. You really do. And it's like, there you go, another 30 minutes I just spent on you because you do. And by the way, they have comments in this article. So let's go into what they say here, right? So one commenter says, sadly, broadcast radio is in its deathbed. The only thing keeping it viable is local sports coverage or rare local talent. I know I spent half my radio sales and management, half my career, but for 20th century and before I phoned, radio was a force. Another one, only listen to terrestrial radio while on a vehicle. Handheld devices along with the internet have taken out the recording industry and traditional media outlets like newspaper and radio. Ad revenues are going to the digital spaces like Meta, YouTube, and TikTok where the most eyes exist. No telling how long satellite radio will have a place in media as it relies heavily on subscriptions for revenue. And one other person I'll take in here, nobody cares about radio and the lack of interest and responses to this story further proves my point. Yep. Horrible. And this is the way it is with radio. Now let's talk about what the industry, the rest of them. I can't just pick on Bob Pittman. I have to pick on the rest. And no one else will do this because no one is able to go ahead and say anything because everybody's at risk of like losing their jobs or losing a chance of getting a job down the line. I don't. No, I don't do that. So let's go into the other stories. Okay, RadioDays North America is going on right now. And hopefully I'll get some things talking about this next week. So I always like to talk about Sean Ross at radioinsight.com, radioinsight.com, who's always good for some information. One of the things he talks about is Canadian Music Week. And talking about Jukebox Jury, which is a takeoff of a show in the UK. Record people and sometimes audience members pitching brand new songs to a days of radio program and music directors. Well, that's also happening this year as part of RadioDays North America. And he talks about that back in 2018, in the last 5 years, what radio is looking for has changed radically. In the mid-2010s, he was reading an article Sean Ross says about BBC Radio 1's music meeting, and the then radical amount of time that went into discussing metrics, particularly bands' social media followings. The metrics are different now, but they're front and center in most discussions about what is a hit now. And in person, it will be interesting to see how much weight programmers give the song versus the story that surrounds it. Yeah. So streaming metrics, sales, all the things that actually matter, what the Billboard Hot 100 represents. See BBC Radio, they follow what official charts say. Accurate, dependable metrics, telling you why a song's popular, maybe they should be playing it. On the Billboard Hot 100, same kind of algorithm. Except for the unfortunate radio push that goes along where radio airplay gets too much credence towards the performance of a song on the Hot 100. Like maybe if radio was actually going along with a way of how they used to do it, where they had a better way of presenting records and presenting new music when it was becoming viral, when it became in the Hot 100, that radio would be playing it because sales and streaming or sales were actually generating an interest for people to listen to songs on the radio. Singles, right? What artists are looking for almost has certainly changed too. Although radio gatekeeper status was already loosening in 2017, it didn't stop artists from looking to the jukebox jury for industry attention. And he talks about what radio has to offer artists in 2023. And he did a survey. And one of the consensus answers was radio's ability to offer critical mass. By and large, that's the function that radio and labels seem to agree on, radio as the finisher. Good point. And that's not all I want for radio, but I agree if that radio can no longer propel a record into what's left of the uniculture on its own, there's not much chance of streaming doing the same without radio. Correct. Very well said, Sean. Thank you. And other readers viewed radio's consolidation decision-making process as a positive now. Be able to get on one radio station now is a gateway to national exposure. And one other person that was an answer from a number of readers of citing radio's power of on-air music advocacy and in particular artist interviews, one person says, local personalities, quote, are trusted by their listeners more so than national personalities. You want your music to be given a chance by the audience. The local jock that audience trusts is going to get the job done. Yes. Absolutely correct. Radio offers the ability to hear a jock tell a story about you and your song with passion and excitement, and tens of thousands of people hearing your song at the same time. There's nothing that can compare. Nothing. And another person says that the best way for fans to get to know acts as people and artists is to talk with radio. How much would you really know about your favorite artist if a DJ hadn't interviewed them on air? Right. At a time when more broadcasters are again understanding the power of personality and companionship, it makes sense that the artist interview would emerge as well. It's a major part of country music, by the way. And it does better than most formats these days in having new stars and an emerging body of music, even if many are bolstered by streaming. And he talks about the fact there's not a lot of artist interviews as of late. And so that's one of the things that I would love to go and be a part of if I could see that jukebox jury. That actually sounds really fun. That actually sounds really good. Now, Radio Days will have other things they're going to be talking about. Secrets of a 15-share morning show, radio's feature in the car, navigating PPM, what we've learned, among other things. Now, going along, he also talks about how the personal people meter, that, you know, it took a while for people to move away from that dogma, that personal people meters, you know, they talk about that. You know, radio programmers should stop doing stop sets and some sort of combination clock times. And that Pandora has been emerging as one of radio's most serious competitors. It's taken inroads by the streaming services for broadcasters to see personality, particularly outside morning drive, as a superpower, not a vulnerability. And also think that, that's what Sean Ross says, PPM took hold at a time when there was more of an open dialogue between broadcasters of the radio trades and at industry conferences. As radio looked for new tactics, there were fewer places to discuss them. Less people listen and pay attention. When you talk to programmers about PPM right now, some will tell you they're less focused on trying to game the system and more on just doing what's right for their station. The biggest turnaround has been the attitude towards personality. Back in 2009, a moment when content had been minimized, exemptions granted for, say, Ryan Seacrest, Howard Stern was already out of broadcast radio, and it was widely held he would have performed well in PPM, but high-profile adult R&B radio hosts like Michael Baisden didn't get the same benefit of the doubt. These days, you hear call letters less thanks to PPM, especially on big market stations. He also asks, why are we are still programming to the 9-minute listening occasion that PPM exposed? That it was possible to see some stations win by taking a traditional approach to time spent listening. More variety within one listening span than play the smash hit now and hope for an extra occasion approach that had taken hold. And right now they're saying that we're still trying to rebuild R&B, hip-hop, and Latin radio. And that the industry accepted the rating declines of those formats too readily, dismantled the personality franchise, especially in afternoon formats, too quickly, And what we saw was an adult R&B station and one Spanish-language broadcaster in a market rebound while others continue to struggle. We're seeing broadcasters embrace personality at R&B radio again, but I'm also seeing that Amazon's listener-driven AMP is getting its first inroads at broadcast radio alternative with hip-hop and R&B, judging from the number of offerings in those genres. We also think about that there's less control for those looking for their own programming destinies. The last decade has rendered broadcasters less able to do the things they need to do to promote or staff the radio stations anyway, but it seems like we've become existential about them. And that there are still real issues that are left unaddressed. Having a 3-hour commercial day workday kickoff may be the best way to get a bigger piece of existing listening, but it doesn't overall address listening levels. Doesn't fix the streaming stop-set experience. And that people that need to be coming on board who can rebuild radio's personality, entertainment franchises. He makes the point that we decided that companionship and showbiz weren't important. We spent 15 years without training anybody to do that sort of radio. The generations of broadcasters before them had, in many cases, retired, been consolidated out of the business, or at least shamed away from doing the sort of radio that seemed old school. Radio needs innovators now, but it also needs the people already in the midst using the best of the skill sets they have. Building personality entertainment. These are all good points Sean Ross is saying, but nobody's paying attention. Nobody's answering the call. I don't know what you do next. Okay. I got a few more things to bring up before we wrap up the show. Let's go and get into some other headlines that are out there. Let's get into the strike. A few new updates coming around. We'll start off with that the Directors Guild of America has unanimously approved a tentative contract agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture Television Producers. And that was on late Saturday. So they're going to set parameters around the use of artificial intelligence and boosting streaming residual rates. So it's going to be sent to a ratification vote by the DGA membership, and materials will be sent to the members this week. So we'll see if that's going to happen. So Directors Guild is going to come up with a deal, which they always say if that happens, that usually can happen before the writers get their deal done. The actors now and the studios are agreeing to a media blackout because their talks are about to begin. So the SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television Radio Artists, has started negotiations with major studios on Wednesday. Two sides agreed on already one thing: they're not going to talk to the media. And they're going into talks looking for robust regulations on artificial intelligence, a better streaming residual formula, and restrictions on self-taped auditions, among other items. Contract expires June 30th. So the Writers Guild continues to be on strike. And at the moment, we're waiting to find out what happens. So Directors Guild usually sets the pattern for deals for SAG-AFTRA and the WGA, but both of those unions said they will not be bound by the terms of the Directors Guild contract. We talked about that last week. Even though the directors might get their deal done, they're not going to be as intricate or complicated or detailed like the writers or the actors. And that's the part we're talking about right there. So those two stories are coming into play. We'll find out more and see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. Another story I want to take around here is who's winning the streaming wars in 2023. Good story from vulture.com. So they go up and do the rankings, and they base it on 4 factors. One is audience impact, how many people are really watching. Next is momentum, who's experimenting and shifting the paradigm. Also based on 13 Hollywood and Wall Street insiders. And the critics. So here's your top 7. Number 7 is Paramount Plus. 60 million subscribers. And so we'll just take some of the comments that are being said on here of industry insiders. Feels like they're trying too hard to recruit viewers. Sometimes it feels desperate. They do have good shows. 1883, 1923 felt like big sweeping miniseries in the 80s with huge stars leading both. Of all the services, this feels at least necessary. I can't wait to stream Paramount titles on Netflix, where so many of them end up. Star Trek spinoffs and Yellowstone sequels have built Paramount Plus into a destination for a big group of viewers. Add to that CBS content like Ghosts and Survivors, you got a pretty good slate. Number 6 is Prime Video. Prime Video does not give out streaming data, nor subscriber data. Now, 2021, Jeff Bezos says that it surpassed 200 million subscribers. But anyway, who's ever subscribing to Amazon Prime, there would be, in essence, viewers, if you want to say that. One person says they need a major overhaul. Other one, I wouldn't pay for Prime Video. Another one says, with no brand and constantly overspending on shows that don't reach an audience, Prime needs a pivot, a full rebuild, or just needs to be burnt to the ground. I don't see how the management team can stand there another lackluster year. One other one says their movies are better than Netflix movies. Consistently more movies that I actually want to watch. That said, I can't remember the last show on Amazon I cared about at all, perhaps other than The Boys. Peacock is number 5. 22 million viewers, or subscribers, excuse me. Bless Poker Face. Between that and The Traders, it really made an impact and clawed their way up from the depths. Comfortably straddles network fare and premium content, really growing on me. Supplying filet mignon at sausage prices, single-handedly showing why the linear bundle is in trouble. Slightly better than Paramount Plus, but it has Bravo and Universal Films. That gives it one hell of an advantage. Apple TV's number 4. And it's making some of the best television that no one's watching. Besides Ted Lasso and Shrinking, I don't think I could name 2 other shows on Apple TV Plus right now. Damn. Very good product. Wants to be HBO with its higher-ended fare, but not really enough product or subs. Does anyone really watch Severance? They keep serving up some worthy scripted shows and awards, but the buzz still isn't hitting the mainstream meter. Disney Plus and Hulu is number 3. Disney Plus has 157 million subscribers. Hulu 48 million. Disney Plus is a true must-have if you have kids. Hulu really helps to broaden the appeal between princesses, superheroes, and galaxies far, far away. But it's time to define what really stands in terms of programming. It needs a vision and personality. They shed subscribers, another one says, are seeing more churn than they have in the past, and they need something that will feel like defining outside of the brands they have sucked the life out of. Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar. If you're not into the 14th Marvel and Star Wars spinoff, what are you really getting from it? And number 2 is Netflix. Streaming's biggest test is a global one, not domestic. Right now, the clear winner is Netflix. That's unlikely to change in the next few years. The balance of good or bad is off, so you can never quite know what to expect. The global focus sounds smart, but does it letting it guide creative decisions pay off? Scale seems to be all, and they have it. Post-strike, do people still like them and want to sell there? We'll see. Netflix is like the war horse now. They intermittently put out must-see prestige content, but it still feels fewer and farther between. Max is number 1. 97.6 million subscribers. One says, I personally hate the it's all here approach and don't really want to mind euphoria with their property brothers, although I have a feeling most people do. It's the last one we cancel. It doesn't even have the Digitalist Catch or Hometown yet. Once that happens, it might actually be gone. Set, match, Zassoff. In a world where Bernard Arnault has become the largest fortune based on the concepts of luxury, premium, and scarcity, HBO has that in spades with their programming. They consistently deliver the most critical successes that have reached a wide audience. So far, the Zaz effect hasn't been what everybody thought it should be. And by some miracle, HBO Max managed to become a must-have service in the span of 2 years. Then in the span of a few months, due to a corporate merger, you managed to piss off your customer base, ruin most of that goodwill, and do a name change that is a nightmare for SEO. Well, but Max, I'll tell you what, Max has a lot of good stuff. Like all the HBO stuff is really what it is for. And HBO was around really early on when they were doing their stuff anyway, so that's what's really important. One more story to wrap up here on the program to get us to an hour. Spotify now is shifting their podcast strategy to make exclusives available on other platforms. So their popular podcasts, The Armchair Expert and Anything Goes, are now available on other streaming platforms, which is now reversing their strategy in order to attract more listeners and boost revenue for the shows. Armchair Expert is a Spotify exclusive, hosted by Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. will soon be available on other services. Emma Chamberlain's Anything Goes is already accessible on Apple's podcast service. More will likely follow according to knowledge of the situation. So, making shows exclusive to Spotify limited the potential audience, as podcast listeners often use other services. Spotify told Bloomberg News it's adopting a tailored approach to each show, including releasing episodes exclusively for a period before making them broadly available, a strategy known as windowing. Yeah, don't cut off your audience. Spotify doesn't need to be the platform people go and listen from, but Spotify should be the brand by which podcasters should know about and listen to from anywhere. Because you're branding Spotify at the end of the day. Like, you want to be able to promote Spotify on other platforms by these shows. So why not do that? That actually makes complete sense. Okay, that's the show. We did it. I appreciate all of you listening to the program. My radio rants. Hey, I know it's a little bit redundant. I know I get a little bit carried away. But I love the radio business. I'm telling you, I have always said it myself. If I were to win the lottery, I would love to be able to own a radio station and basically live in it and program it. Just as they can do it again. And actually disrupt the radio space with an actual good radio station. You know what we talked about last week with WBC and John Catsimatidis and what he's been able to do over there? You know, an AM radio station. And it does really well. They have live programming across the board. Local. And they really do a good job of what they're doing. And the one thing they're doing the most of is that they're trying to go and do something here. They're programming right now, okay? Frank Morano on the Other Side of Midnight is their late night show. And you talk about local politics and other things. Sid Rosenberg, still runs the morning show, the post-Imus period. They do run some shows that are considerably... Listen, the political talk, let's just take that out the window. But they're doing live and local. Now, 10 to 12, they don't have live and local. But they have live and local at 12 o'clock, at 1 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 5, 6 o'clock is syndicated. And then we move along here, right? They got local programming across the board. Smart. And at least they're trying, man. At least they're doing something. I can appreciate that. So more than anything, we're seeing that radio can be done right, and I would love the chance to be able to do that myself. And still be doing podcasting like I do today. I really would love that. But at least I have my platform here, and I know there's some people that are out there, and of course I'll get my friend Lou Pate to go and hopefully, tweet this out for me, and I'll get a nice bump from his audience out there and for me, and, enjoy that. But I really love doing this podcast every week. And for those of you that listen to this on a regular basis and get to this point of the program, thank you. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for listening in. If you haven't done so, please go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please rate and review the show if you haven't done so. And follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, at King of Podcasts. You can find me all right there as well. And I hope you'll consider it. And more than anything, I'm going to come back with another Broadcasters podcast. Until next week, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.